All right, ready for a deep dive? Today we're tackling a story that's, well, ancient history, but still somehow feels incredibly relevant today. The parable of the prodigal son. This parable, I don't know about you, but it's always kind of gotten under my skin. Like on the surface, simple family drama, right? But then, bam, you're wrestling with forgiveness, redemption, what it means to be utterly lost and then found. Thankfully, I'm not alone in this. We've got expert speaker here to help us unpack it all.
You know, what's really fascinating to me about this parable, it's how it endures. I mean, think about it, over 2,000 years ago, told and retold, and yet here we are still finding new meaning in it. It just goes to show there's something so fundamentally human about this longing for belonging, for making colossal mistakes, but still finding redemption.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so just in case, anyone needs a refresher, we've got this father, two sons, and let's just say the younger one, not exactly winning any Son of the Year awards here. I mean, he basically tells his dad, look, just assume you're dead, okay? Give me the inheritance now. Talk about an opening line.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. And you hit on such a crucial point there. Back then, demanding your inheritance like that wasn't just about the money, not even close. It was like this slap in the face to everything the father stood for, the family, their traditions, everything.
It's like he's saying, your values, all of it, meaningless. Just give me the cash, let me go be me. Can you imagine being the older brother? No wonder we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But for now, this rebellious younger son.
Right, so he takes the money, hightails it to this faraway land, which itself is symbolic, right? Not just physical distance, but emotional, spiritual, the works, and man, does he let loose.
Parties, spending like it's going out of style, the whole 9 yards. But we all know where that usually leads, don't we? Spoiler alert, not lasting happiness.
Rarely, if ever, right. And that's definitely the case here. Picture this. He's broke. Utterly alone, so desperate he takes the most degrading job imaginable at the time, feeding pigs. And that detail, that might seem small to us now, but back then, to the people hearing Jesus tell this, whoa, pigs, unclean. For this son to sink that low shows you just how far he'd fallen, and not just his bank account. Spiritually bankrupt, hitting rock bottom hard.
It's like that classic, what goes up must come down.
Yeah.
But with a whole lot of existential crisis thrown in. And here's where the parable gets really interesting, I think. Because even after all that, the dad, he doesn't give up. He sees his son, I mean, we're talking probably still covered in whatever you get covered in while feeding pigs. What does he do? He row in as to him. And our sources, they were very clear on this. A man, his position, running, that was unheard of. Scandalous even.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what makes that image so powerful. Imagine that. Defying all social expectations. Because this father, he doesn't care about what's proper. He sees his son hurting, lost, and love just takes over. Powerful stuff. Makes you think about how God's love works, doesn't it? No matter how messy things get, he meets us right where we are.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And it's not like, well, good to have you back, son. No, this father, he throws a party. I'm talking the best robe, fattened calf, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying he was lost, now he's found. Let's celebrate.
Exactly. And it's not even just, oh, I forgive you. It's full-on restoration. The son doesn't even have to, beg to come back. The father, no grudges, doesn't even mention the wasted inheritance, just welcomes him back, full privileges, everything. Just like that unconditional love of God. It's incredible.
It's amazing. But I gotta admit, I'm already kind of nervous about how Big Brother's gonna feel about all this.
Yeah.
Before we open that can of worms, though, maybe we should take a quick break.
Oh, the older brother. Yeah, he's a whole other side to this story, isn't he? Like, if the younger one is all about that impulse to just, break free, chase the good times, the older brother, he represents something else. That, I don't know, maybe rigid sense of what's right, maybe even a little entitled,
Before we get too deep into how the older brother reacts, that image of the father running, it really stuck with me. Have you ever, really experienced that kind of love, no conditions, someone just tossing aside what's expected, their own ego, just to meet you with that much joy?
I have, yeah, and it's humbling, Just cuts through all the walls we put up and you remember what matters.
It's true. And it makes you think, how often do we as a society get so caught up in appearances, in doing things the right way, that we forget about just leading with our hearts?
All the time. This parable, though, it's like this reminder, compassion, connection, those are what matter, not judgment or who's got the best social etiquette.
Right. Okay, so back to the story. Party's going strong, music's playing, everyone's having a good time. And here comes the older brother, probably tired after a long day's work and, well, let's just say not super excited about the prodigal son festivities.
To put it mildly, yeah. And honestly, can you blame him at least a little? Put yourself in his shoes. You stayed home, followed all the rules, the good son, right? Then your brother, after blowing his inheritance, basically spitting in your dad's face, waltzes back in, and boom, instant celebration. That's gotta sting.
Oh, totally. Makes me think about how much we still do that today, comparing ourselves to others. Especially with social media, right? Everyone's showing their best selves, their wins. It's easy to get caught up in that, feeling resentful or like you're not good enough.
Oh, 100%. Might not be a farm and inheritance these days, but that feeling, not good enough, overlooked, that's universal. Human nature right there.
Totally. And that's the danger, isn't it? Because the older brother, he's so focused on what he sees as unfair. I did all this, Dad, where's my party? That he's missing the bigger picture.
He is, yeah. And it shows this really fundamental misunderstanding of his father's love. And by extension, God's love. He's seeing it as transactional, earned through being good, obedience, like he's keeping score.
Trying to earn his way into a celebration that's already happening. Love and grace just flowing freely, and he's stuck outside it.
Exactly. And that's the real tragedy of his position. So caught up in being right, in his own sense of injustice, that he can't experience the joy of it all, the freedom of just being in that loving relationship.
Which is what the younger son, even after hitting rock bottom, finally seems to have found.
It's true. Sometimes you gotta wander far from what matters to actually see it clearly. Sometimes you gotta face those ingrained patterns like the older brother needing control, recognition, before you can experience the real freedom of love without strings.
Makes you wonder how often we're living with that older brother mentality, always striving, proving ourselves, that we miss out on the joy of just being loved for who we are, flaws and all.
It's such an easy trap to fall into, but the parable, it doesn't leave us there. The father, he's wise, compassionate. He tries to guide his son gently. My son, he says, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours.
Wow. Like, it's okay. You don't have to earn this. You're worthy just because you are.
Exactly. It's about that unlimited nature of real love. Not a limited resource to be earned. It's overflowing for everyone.
And yet, even with that, the parable leaves us hanging a little, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know if the older brother ever joins the party. It's like it's up to us to decide. Will he hold on to that resentment or open his heart and accept that love?
And that's what makes it so powerful, right? Because it's the same choice we all face. Hold on to our grievances, needing to be right or let go, and step into the freedom of forgiveness and acceptance.
It really makes you think, because it's not just some ancient story, is it? I mean, haven't we all felt a little like that older brother at some point? You're working hard, doing what you're supposed to, and yet it looks like everyone else is getting ahead and maybe not always playing by the same rules.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That feeling of, wait, that's not fair. It's so easy to get stuck in that, feeling resentful, like you're not good enough.
Especially these days, right? Social media, it's like a highlight reel on repeat. It's hard not to compare, to feel a little inadequate sometimes.
It really is. But this parable, I think that's where it offers us a real way out of that trap. It reminds us that real joy, feeling fulfilled, it doesn't come from keeping score. Who's got more? Who's doing better? It comes from tapping into that love, that acceptance that's already there for all of us. We are worthy just because we are, not because of what we achieve.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
But easier said than done, right? Like, how do we actually make that shift? Go from feeling resentful to actually living that, embracing love and acceptance for ourselves and others.
It's a journey for sure, but it starts with noticing it, Being aware of when we've slipped into that older brother mode, when we're comparing, measuring ourselves against everyone else.
So like catching ourselves when we're scrolling through social media, feeling that pang of envy, or even when we're holding on to resentment because someone else is successful.
Exactly. Once we see it, then we can start asking ourselves, is this helpful? Is this even true? Is this thought bringing me closer to what I really want or pushing it further away?
It's about making a choice, focusing on our own path, and remembering that comparison. It really does steal your joy.
It does. And then it's about extending that same grace to others, When we see someone else winning, what if instead of resentment, we celebrate with them, assume the best, be happy for them, realize that their success doesn't take away from our own?
That's huge, that shift in thinking. And it makes me think about when the father tells the older son, you are always with me and all that is mine is yours. Like, it's okay, there's enough for everyone.
Exactly. It's about abundance, not scarcity. When we truly get that, it changes everything. No more competition, no more comparing, just joy, connection, being present for it all.
This parable, It might be old, but it feels like it speaks to so much of what we're grappling with today. Fairness, equality, social justice.
It does, right? It's a challenge to go beyond simple ideas of deserving or earning, and instead to choose compassion, to choose empathy, to see our shared humanity.
Because ultimately, aren't we all just trying to find our way back to that feeling of belonging, to being loved unconditionally?
We are, and that's the beauty of this parable. No matter how far we stray, how many wrong turns, that door is always open. There's a place for us.
That is a beautiful thought to end on. Well, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive into the parable of the prodigal son. Thanks for joining us. I hope this conversation gave you some new insights, maybe even challenged you to think about forgiveness, acceptance, and that incredible, boundless love that's out there. Until next time, keep asking the big questions and keep seeking that connection, that belonging.